We have a two-time author, Lisa Danielchuk, looking absolutely gorgeous. Thank you for joining me out here.
Happy to be here.
It's always a good day when I have Lisa standing on her feet and not on her head. Lisa is a yoga practitioner, also a therapist, and your book, How You Can Heal Again, a strengths-based guide to trauma recovery. What's that about?
It's about recovering from trauma. One of the things that I think people who are recovering from trauma are often afraid of is that they're going to have to go digging into the really tough stories first thing. So I'm a therapist, and people often come to me and say, like, I don't want to talk about it yet. And I think people don't understand there's a lot of things you can do just to build up positive things in your life to create the foundation to do that deep, kind of harder digging work. So I wrote this book, all recommendations of things you can do to start that healing process going in the moment. So you don't have to wait to get to therapy. You can do it on your own, and you can sort of build this field of health and healing around you.
I want to ask a remedial question. I want to go back. I know if I were, I don't know, knocked over the head with a 2x4 and mugged, that would be trauma. I know if I was, I ran over myself with a car, that would be trauma. That happened. But what do you mean by trauma? What is trauma? And like, what I want to ask is like, is mine enough? Is it good? Is running over yourself with a car enough? Like what's enough to count as trauma?
It's a great question because you can go and like look in the DSM and the technical definition, but really it depends on the person. So like my mom almost got ran over by a car and she was like, whatever, and kept kind of walking. And other people will have a big reaction in their body. And it's not anything wrong with you. It's just how your body responds. And so even something like something emotional, like definitely bullying or someone saying something can cause that sort of cycle and physiological trauma response in your body. So we start in this book, we go through the chakras because I'm a yoga teacher and I love that stuff. We were talking about woo-woo. I'm like, yes, right? Bringing those two worlds together. So it's very practical, clinical advice with that. But we start with grounding and kind of getting things together. Anything really can be perceived as trauma, but definitely things that involve violence, things that involve abuse, things that come unexpectedly and take a long time to process, right? I think some people...
I know with my accident, everyone was like, oh, thank God you're okay.
Yeah.
And I was trying to talk myself into agreeing with that. Like I was like, oh, thank God I'm okay. But I did not feel okay. And so it's like, I think what's interesting about trauma is what can feel like a close call and everyone's like, oh, nothing bad happened. And yet my head was just looping and looping and looping and looping and looping.
And looping and looping.
Yeah.
Because they get there quicker because they weren't there and they didn't go through all the intensity you went through, right? So when you go through something really intense, your body's trying to figure it out. Your body's trying to get to your safe, but it's not there yet, right? And there's a lot of ways you can coax it into safety. And some trauma therapies go right into like, remember that time when that awful thing happened, and then you're just gone again and looping and looping. And so you actually need to create that safety and guide yourself. And this is where a therapist comes in super handy. And I love doing this work with people, guiding people there to get to the point where your whole body recognizes what everyone else is saying to you, which is, you're okay, this is a miracle. And you're like, yeah, and I get that, but all of me isn't on board yet. And so I think for really smart people, it's like frustrating because they're like, no, yeah, I'm there. And this is a great experience because now I'm so motivated to live my life. But at the same time, you could wake up and be having a bad dream or whatever else. And it's like, that gets confusing. Like, why am I not done with this yet?
Yeah. Well, How We Can Heal, such an interesting book. And I think for you, if there are things in your life that maybe you're asking yourself or you've said to yourself, like, I should just get over this. Like, what's wrong with me? It wasn't that big of a deal. There are people who have real traumas. Like, I understand if you have cancer. Like, I understand if you get raped. But if you're somebody who has been looping on something and sort of discounting yourself, I would say Lisa Danielchuk's How You Can Heal, a strengths-based guide to trauma recovery, well worth checking out. And obviously, if you've had a major trauma, you'll also get some advice there. But I think this book is really a secret weapon for people who have overridden their body's responses by saying I'm okay when really some part of you isn't.
Yeah. We talk about that in the book, the difference between like a fake mantra and a real mantra, right? And like really believing something. And a part of it is you have to practice to get yourself there. You can't just say like, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. You have to, there's ways to craft that, to bridge it so that you get from the place where there's a lot of you that really doesn't believe it to the place where you're like, oh, okay, no, this is actually true.
Yeah. Such an important journey, one I have spent more time on this month than I expected to, and have been very glad to have your book by my side. I had a sneak peek access, but now everyone can get it. You can find that link on the right-hand side of your screen. After you read Lisa's book, make sure you reach out to her and say thank you. I know it will make a difference in your life. So thank you for joining us on the red carpet.